Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Full House Sports here, myself, Charlie. It is NFL Wildcard weekend, one of my favourite weekends because this is when we get down to the nitty gritty in the NFL. This is the playoffs starting, it's the beginning, the road to the Super Bowl now feels like it's getting real. And today I'm going to be predicting this Wildcard weekend because for me, some of these matchups are absolutely brilliant. They always are in the playoffs, but I think probably bar one game that I'm going to talk about first, I think all of them could go either way. And I think that's the beauty of it. You know, I wouldn't expect to see any blowouts in this at all. I may be wrong, but I think they're all going to be tight games. Like I say, barring one. And that one that I'm going to start off with is the game that is tonight, the Rams versus the Panthers. I've got to say, with this Panthers game, I am now fully in favour, and I do think this needs to happen, that this system, the playoff system, needs to change. The Panthers, their division, let's face it, is the weakest division probably going, the NFC South. Obviously, they had that last weekend shootout, which involved the Falcons and the Buccaneers. They lost to the Buccaneers. I watched that game, and they were pretty awful in it. They were really bad to watch, and that meant that it came down to the Falcons. They did them a favour, and then the Panthers stuck through. But they do sneak through as one of the top seeds because they've won their division. That means they face off against an LA Rams side, who I think are probably many people's favourites for the Super Bowl in general. I just think surely now we're at a stage where it could just go on records rather than going on who wins their division. I know people say, yeah, but then what's the point of winning the division? But I just think we've seen it now for a little while where some divisions have been incredibly weak and it's meant that we've had a distorted playoff picture. I'd fully expect the Rams to come through tonight against the Panthers. I think the weapons they've got at their disposal, Matthew Stafford looks favourite for the MVP. I think this is probably the only one, like I said from the top of the video, that could be a blowout that I think will potentially be very one-sided to watch. Yes, Bryce Young, he has got this great chemistry with McMillan at wide receiver. They're going to need, though, the game of their lives, in my opinion, and to rely on a defence that has looked iffy at best this year. With all of the LA Rams' offensive weapons, I just can't see anything going other than a Rams blowout, to be honest with you. But then it starts to really get into the football, the real football, the tough football, which is at 1 o'clock tonight, the Chicago Bears play off against local rivals, the Green Bay Packers. We've seen this already twice this year, teams playing each other. Both sides have got one win each. Home field advantage looks to be a big factor in this one, and that is why I'm siding with the Bears. I'm excited about this one because I think both teams have got fantastic young quarterbacks who, yes, have got maybe doubts around them, Caleb Williams and Jordan Love, but I do think it's got the potential to become maybe a shootout between the two quarterbacks. I think, though, Chicago's secondary is rejuvenated this year, and that could be really, really important for the context of this game in terms of Love has looked iffy at times this year, maybe, and I just think the Bears, with the home field advantage, I think it's going to be a one-score game. I can see it coming down to the final quarter. I don't think that there'll be either team with a big lead going into it. I think it will be tight, but I just think Caleb Williams may come up with the goods instead of Jordan Love. Obviously, for the Packers, it's important to factor in what a shame it is that they are missing Micah Parsons, who has recently become an All-Pro once again. A shame that we have to see one of the league's top talents in general missing out of the playoffs, but that is the nature of the beast and the nature of injuries. Fast forward to what is going to be in the UK Sunday evening, and the game for me that I think is my favourite of all the lineups, of all the playoff lineup, which is quite an outstanding thing to say, but I'm really looking forward to this Bills versus Jaguars game. Anyone who's watched me talk about American football on the channel before will say that a few videos ago, my apologies, I did think that the Jags were dark horses. I've been saying it for a while, and listen, they overcame the Denver Broncos recently in a game that I thought was sort of them testing their mettle. Yes, they've performed admirably in some games, but I thought that Broncos win was really, really a message to the league, a real message to the league, to say, we're here now and we are contenders. Trevor Lawrence in that game looked like a man coming of age, and I think with the wide receivers they've got at their disposal as well, Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, Kobe Myers, they've got these wide receivers at their disposal. I think it's a big test for the Bills, and I'm actually siding with the Jags on this one, unbelievably. I think I could see Josh Allen pulling off a masterclass and the Bills coming through it, and it wouldn't surprise me. But I don't know why I just favour the Jags this year. I think they've got no reason to fear the Bills. They've beat the Chiefs in the regular season. They've beat the Broncos. They've gone to to the Mile High Stadium. They've beat these teams. They've got no reason to fear the Bills. And like I say, I could be completely wrong. The Bills look towards the end of the season to be back clicking after a iffy, I think, mid-season period. But I think this is another real test for them. And like I say, I think it all depends as well on how Trevor Lawrence does for the Jags. If he can't get it going, and then they are going to struggle. But even then, Travis Etienne at running back has been a standout performer for the Jags as well this year. I just favour them to win, perhaps a similar fashion to what they did against the Broncos in that game a few weeks ago, where they just shut down the Denver offense, and then in their own offense were really innovative and showed that they've got a lot of weapons at their disposal. Of course, as well, I think an important factor, considering what could happen at the end of the game, is Cam Little, because we know field goal range for Cam Little is very different to field goal range for a lot of kickers in this league. And if it's fourth quarter, it's coming down to the last play of the game. The Jags know they've got that in their disposal. Can they do it under pressure? That's the real question, but that's just something I think to bear in mind. Then after that comes probably one that's getting a lot of people out of their seats, and that is the Eagles and the 49ers. What a game. Running it back from a couple of seasons ago, where, of course, there was that infamous 31-7 game the Eagles won, during which the 49ers had two quarterbacks fall down injured. They're going to hope that they don't have a repeat of that, as their coach, Kyle Shanahan, has said he's not taking the third quarterback. He's not going to sign Adrian Martinez. It's just going to be Brock Purdy and Mac Jones travelling with the team. Both teams coming into this on an interesting run of form. The 49ers lost to the Seahawks, of course, last week and was shut out, really. Christian McCaffrey had his worst game in a long time in general. Brock Purdy as well struggled. I mean, the Seahawks defence deserves a lot of credit for that. On the other side of the coin, the flip side of that coin, the Eagles took the chance to rest a lot of players, which meant that they missed out on that number 2 seed, which would have given them a lot of home advantage. So I think it's an intriguing matchup in that sense, because neither team's coming into it in particularly great form. I still think the 49ers defence is probably not good enough to win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl, and that is why I'm struggling. But then the Eagles' offense has been clunky this year, and their O-line has been beat up heavily, which has not been given the protection to Jalen Hurts, perhaps. There's all sorts of rumours going around about what's been going on behind the scenes. Special teams plays haven't been clicking as well. Coaching setups and what's being said there. But they're here, and that's that. And I just think the Eagles, I don't think they're going to retain it. I don't think they're going to go back-to-back. But I do think they will get through this game against the 49ers. Again, a close game, but I would side heavily with the Eagles on this one. Then there is the Patriots versus the Chargers. Now, the Patriots have undoubtedly been impressive this year. Drake May, outstanding. O-line, absolutely fantastic, giving him that protection. Offensively, they've been just spectacular, full stop. And defensively as well. But this is a test, because I think undoubtedly their schedule has been very, very easy. I know that's not their fault. That's how the schedule's designed. But part of me fancies the Chargers in this one, and it sounds outrageous to say, but I just wonder with the Patriots how things are going to go when they find themselves under pressure. And that's quite something to say about a team that for many is not just the favourites to win this game, but the favourites to win the Super Bowl in general. I just think their schedule, though, has been quite easy. Yes, they've had tests. Of course they've had tests. But they haven't had the run of a lot of the other teams in this playoff picture. And that, for me, is a big factor in how I think this game is going to go. The Chargers, of course, with Justin Herbert at quarterback, they also have been clunky this season. Losing to the Texans 2016, it wasn't great to watch. I watched that game, and their offense just didn't get going again. But I do think Justin Herbert has this may be a game where I think he could decide it. He could decide things. It'll be tight. They're all going to be tight. I keep repeating myself. They are all going to be tight. I just edge towards the Chargers, which sounds unbelievable, but I do think the Chargers could win this one. Last but certainly not least is the Steelers against Texans. What to make of the Texans? The start was horrendous, and then all of a sudden their defence has clicked. They've got this monstrous defence going up against 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin's Steelers, who have had a interesting run to these playoffs. I think it's fair to say. I think the Texans could go deep in these playoffs. I really do, because their defence is just so good and so relentless. We've seen that time after time this season, whether it be the Chargers in recent weeks or against the Chiefs before as well, or against the Bills. They just are relentless and they are so well organised. I think they will beat the Steelers. It wouldn't surprise me if they beat the Steelers and Mike Tomlin finds himself without a job. I mean, there's still a lot of talk about what's going on there. Steelers are a very, I think, bizarre franchise at the minute. I don't know where the direction they're going in is, but they are fundamentally in the playoffs, so they can't complain. I just think the Texans will win this one. And like I say, I favour them to go deep in these playoffs. I really do, because I think defensively they are one of the best teams in it, without a doubt. Let us know what you guys think, as always, of my predictions. Please, in the comments, let me know. You may think I'm completely wrong. You may think I'm completely right. It doesn't matter. As always, please like, comment and subscribe. I've been Charlie. This is Full House Sports. Have a great day.